My name is Holly Butler. I am the Life Enrichment Director at University Village. I'd like to welcome all of our guests and our residents. New West Symphony's Meet the Artist program is very, very special for us and for our community. We're very, very happy to have Michael Christie back with us today, and we will be introduced to Tai Murray, a wonderful violinist. If you wouldn't mind, please silence your cell phones. We would really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Michael, great to see you again.
Thank you, Holly. Welcome, everybody. I was waiting to see what was on that, because I couldn't see on the side, the profile, what the silence your cell phones, so I had a little chuckle at the moment. Tai Murray, welcome, our wonderful guest violin soloist. Tai is been very accommodating because I've asked her to play some very unusual things for a violin soloist, but we'll get into that in just a moment because it all ties in. So this program is very special to me because we continue our America 250 focus as we get ever closer to July 4th, 2026, being the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And I have woven all of the pieces on our program for the year together under the umbrella of A250 in some ways. And so you might ask, well, what on earth is Brahms' First Symphony doing under that umbrella? Well, in 1876, when America was turning 100, Brahms premiered his First Symphony. And that's it. There's no other connection. But I thought it was really interesting because I think it's a special thing to remember that life continues to go on. As politics is happening, as social things are happening, as education's happening, as technology is evolving, our lives continue to go on, and the lives of artists continue to go on. So Brahms had been thought of as the heir apparent to Beethoven, and people were commenting not only about his music, but also among artist circles, that Brahms' music, the rhythmical drive, the melodic pathos, all those things was, in their view, certainly the descendant in some way of Beethoven. And so people will sometimes call Brahms' First Symphony his Beethoven's 10th Symphony. And I don't really want to get into all why that's true. Some people attribute certain motives as hearkening back to Beethoven's Ninth, for example. You can take from it as you wish, but do know that there is the specter of Beethoven's legacy hanging over this symphony. It took Brahms 14 years, and not only just writing this one piece, and taking certain melodic segments, trying it and then saying, oh no, actually that's going to go into a piano concerto, that's going to go to a serenade, etc., etc. And so, but he was really working on trying to figure out how to bring that certain style that he had, which does have a certain folkness to it, not as much as the Dvorak or other composers, but it does have a folkness, but it really, the next level that Brahms has taken with this is how the motives overlap. And I think that is one big defining characteristic compared to, say, a Beethoven symphony, where pretty much the motives happen in pretty stark relief to each other. But Brahms, when you hear it, I hope many of you will hear the concert this weekend, you're going to hear the themes introduced, and boy, do they interplay with each other in such potent way, but also very, very specific and very elegant, which I think is lovely. And then one thing that Brahms does, which I think is so fun, and again, it's hard to describe and say that it happens all the time, but there is a certain offbeat rhythm to his music where you feel like you're going and you know the pulses, and then suddenly it takes a little turn. But it's not herky-jerky like Bernstein or Gershwin, but it's a more subtle expression of the music. So I think that's amazing. 1876, some wild things were happening. So Brahms writes his First Symphony, this glorious arrival of a master composer. The state of Colorado was welcomed as the 38th state. That's why it's called the Centennial State, because it came in 1876. Susan B. Anthony was protesting on the 4th of July in 1876 because people realized that the 14th and 15th Amendments didn't quite work as they were told that it was supposed to, which was to enable everybody to vote. So as you know, women weren't given the right to vote until the 19th Amendment, and Susan B. Anthony was like, hey, excuse me, this is not happening yet, what's going on? In 1873, there was a huge depression, and in 1876, the country was still working through that depression. And then, this is going to sound almost too comedic just because of how the world is working right now, but it was one of the most highly voter-suppressed presidential elections in American history. In 1876, Rutherford B. Hayes eventually won because the vote in the South was so contested about who, how, etc., that the Congress had to have a grand compromise. And the only way the southern states would effectively release their electoral votes was if the federal government agreed to withdraw federal troops that were still part of the Reconstruction effort after the Civil War. And then as a consequence, Jim Crow laws come in. So it is a fascinating thing, not as a reflection on today necessarily, but it's fascinating to think about how this country, at various points in its history, was still moving and grooving, right? Like it was lurching ahead and then falling back. And I think it's important to know, because I think they would have probably felt that, well, what could the country possibly look like in 200 years if we're dealing with this now? But I think we are definitely going to see America 300 and America 350 as much as we will 250, for sure, because of all of you. But music, I think, and the reason for the umbrella of the A250 is because our musical cultural heritage rises above and exceeds anything that's happening in the day-to-day world. Hence my program here with Tai. Sorry.
Get this gentleman a chair. That's where I was just about to go. I was just going to get him a chair.
Oh, can I help with a chair?
Is this chair for him? Oh, okay, good. I'm sorry. That's why I was walking away. I was going to get him a chair. I wasn't trying to escape.
Yeah. So that's Brahms' First Symphony. So, and in Europe, so the European map was so different at that time in 1876, the Ottoman Empire, the other kind of empire structures that were happening. And even in 1876, where you do have these fairly broad constructed political systems, you still had other countries kind of nipping at the Ottoman Empire, and eventually the Ottoman Empire would fall. And a lot of that was happening starting in 1876. I should also mention, in the United States, the telephone was patented. The National Baseball League was formed in 1876, so that's pretty good. We like that, enduring bits. But Tai, I asked you to do something very unusual, because usually when there is a violin soloist, you'll be asked to play Beethoven or even Brahms. Maybe we'll go into our first meeting, which was some 20 years ago, was when Tai was graduating from Juilliard School. She had won the concerto competition playing a violin concerto of Prokofiev, and I was the conductor for that, which is so neat to come full circle. But I've asked Tai to play two unusual works for violin. The first is a suite from West Side Story, Leonard Bernstein, and then a movement from a sonata by Maurice Ravel, French composer, that people will often call blues. And so, as we're, again, underneath this America 250 umbrella, I didn't think there was any composer or piece of music that was more emblematic of America in the 20th century than West Side Story. And it comes to pass that there are some wonderful West Side Story arrangements or suites that have violin solo, which I think is magnificent. Leonard Bernstein obviously helped educate America's burgeoning television audience. This was a moment when technology was starting to really come into its place in America. Leonard Bernstein obviously would then bring American ingenuity, creativity to all the orchestras that he would conduct around the world. And that was also the beginning of the recording era. When we started moving from, we had all these recordings happen on LP, and then they would change over to CD, and now we're into streaming. So just in terms of America's history, America's importance in the world, culturally, Leonard Bernstein has such a huge place. And then I've also been thinking about the various musical styles that are uniquely American. So of course, we look to the South for inspiration as we go from the very, very early jazz, Dixieland, rhythm and blues, soul, gospel. And I wanted to make sure that in our exploration of America 250 that we touch on that. But what's so fascinating to me is that composers from all over the world heard things like jazz and the blues, and they stopped in their tracks. And the way that they heard about them is that composers from here, or ensembles from here, would go to the world's fairs in other countries at the end of the 19th century, and then suddenly they would hear an ensemble playing blues. And so you've got a composer like Maurice Ravel or Claude Debussy hearing this, stopping in their tracks, and then trying to incorporate it. And so one of the pieces that Tai will play is called The Blues, written by a Frenchman. And I thought it was interesting to hear America reflected by another country, American music reflected back to us in a kind of French, with a, I don't know, maybe like a little bit of creme brulee kind of idea, right? With a little bit of fire on top. So anyway, so that's kind of my overview of why this program is put together the way it is. It's unusual because of the combination, but I think it's so celebratory about mankind as artists, as creators, and profound influencers at various points in world and American history. So Tai, I'm so glad you're with us. So we had our experience when you were graduating. Are you on? I might just have to.
Oh, good morning.
So when we met in New York City some 20 years ago, it was the end of the school year. Everybody was thinking about graduation. It was busy time. And I don't remember ever knowing that much about your background. I mean, I know now, which is fantastic, but it was such a flurry of activity. So why don't you introduce yourself to our wonderful audience here at University Village.
Thank you. Hello, hi, I am Tai Murray. I am a violinist, as you may have gleaned already from Michael. I'm originally from Chicago, from the Midwest, and I started playing violin there. I moved to Bloomington, Indiana when I was very young, eventually went to Indiana University, which is actually my connection with orchestra manager here. And then eventually moved to New York for Juilliard, where it is that I met Michael. That's a very abbreviated version of my musical life.
So let me ask you a basic question. Why
yes.
violin?
I don't know the answer to that other than I know that I love it and have loved it forever. My mother tells me that I started badgering her about playing when I was about 2 years old, that I was convinced that this is what I wanted to do with my life. And I'm lucky to have found out that that was right. Yes, but what else is interesting about my life? So now I live on the East Coast. I live in New Haven, Connecticut. I teach at Yale. I also live in Berlin, Germany, where I moved to in 2012 and continue to have a life there. And so it's an international musical life, and I really enjoy it.
So why Berlin? I'm just going to ask you all the why questions.
Well, Berlin is very wonderful. The culture, art is very, very wonderful. It's very supportive of creatives in general. I work a fair amount in continental Europe as well as in the UK, and Berlin is very centrally placed. Logistically, you can get anywhere in Europe in under 2 hours from Berlin, which is very nice. Any and every space in the city can and is a concert or creative space, which I really enjoy that. I once played a concert in an empty swimming pool in Berlin. The stage was inside the swimming pool and the audience was outside on surrounding us. It was great. Acoustics were great. So I find it to be a place where that is inspiring, and I can bring that inspiration with me wherever else I travel.
Well, Holly, next time you have to empty the pool to clean out something, let us know.
I saw it out there.
We've got a very cool idea for you.
When you.
That's fantastic. So, I mean, when you got this request to play these pieces, as unusual as it may be as a violin soloist, like, what was your impression at that moment, and how was that? How do you feel about it now?
Well, I'll start with the Ravel. The blues movement, that this transcription that we are playing now for violin and orchestra, is this middle movement of his famous Sonata Number 2, actually. And it's always been one of my favorite movements that I've always played. And so to be able to play it in a different configuration now just makes it all that much more enjoyable and illuminates the structure of the piano part. Is for violin and piano originally. So that's first of all. For the Bernstein, I mean, I feel like the Bernstein, it's been a part of my sonic world for as long as I can remember. And as someone who has never regularly played an orchestra, I have not had the opportunity to play it in its original form as often as I would like. So to be able to step into the situation where, you know, the solo violin is sort of plucked out and becomes all the characters, you know, becomes Maria, and, you know, is really, really a cool thing, you know. And the way that the transcription is broken down between the soprano and bass instruments is quite interesting, articulation-wise and also timing-wise. So I'm really excited to do it, and thank you for asking me.
Do you want to play a couple of your favorite melodies? Why not? Let's get to hear your instruments and get to know you a little bit as a player.
I should probably turn this off so I'm not blasting into the mic. But why don't I do it in the order that they appear in the piece, right? So here's my first favorite. Okay, yeah.
All right, keep track. Keep track of all the melodies. All right, we know what that one is, right? America?
Yes, yes, exactly. That's from America, which is very, very catchy, and you know, it's like the introduction to how sparkly the piece is in general, right? So then next comes.
And of course, that's Melissa. Maria, of course. And I just wonder, so how many of you heard Jose Carrera sing that? You know, the famous Leonard Bernstein recording. Amazing. You know, there's a wonderful, a little bit confronting video online on YouTube. If you were to look up West Side Story, Carrera's Bernstein, you'll see them make the recording of that. And if you haven't seen that, it's Bernstein. Bernstein that's like, nope, that's not it. And then he's going, he's like, oh no, that's just not it. It's something you really should see, because you're cringing for Carrera. Like, you're just like, oh my God, how are you dealing with this? All right, what melody do you have next?
Tonight.
We know that one, right?
Yeah.
What's
Love this one.
so what's interesting about an arrangement like this? Is it
Yeah.
what are the things that make an arrangement like really speak to you as a soloist?
That's a really good question. Of course, well, I am playing all the melody lines right now, and within the transcription, of course, I am also playing these melody lines, but it's the rhythmic drive that happens underneath them, for example. So like tonight, what's happening is a da 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 is underneath this, right? And that's what gives it its feeling of flying, right? And the air, like Peter Pan wings.
But is it the extra notes they put on? Is it the going up in the higher octaves? Like
That's true, right? It's using the full range of the instrument itself. I'm on the lower strings, which I was just playing it now. It also happens in the high register, just the dramatics of it, right? Right, exactly. The music itself is dramatic. That is what Bernstein was so well known for, his ability to draw you in with drama. But his orchestration is what gives the basis for the ease, actually, of this transcription.
Indeed.
Right.
What's another melody they've got there?
Let's see. Is this? Yes. Well, okay. Just such beautiful.
Right, somewhere.
And then that's the thing is that if both parts weren't there, it wouldn't mean the same thing, right? The melody is so wonderful, but I have to sing the other part, otherwise it's like something is missing, right?
The other reason I think Leonard Bernstein is such a pivotal figure in American music is that he was not content to be pigeonholed in one genre. So of course we know him as an orchestra conductor, but somehow he was known so well for his melodies and his own facility within music, so that when various composers actually turned down the opportunity to write West Side Story over many years, actually, Bernstein was like, I'm going to write it this way, and it happens to be this very interesting collision between opera and musical theater, which I think is so special about our American openness to not being typecast in a way which I think is really special.
Right, exactly.
What else have we got there?
A love like this. Right. And so I mean that's it.
It's actually a transitional section, this one.
I think the most famous.
Right, but exactly. It's the one that has become music the most. Right.
I Have a Love, right?
Right, exactly.
And then probably the most famous one, right, is the one where it's orchestra participation and sometimes audience participation. We haven't really talked about whether we're going to try and do audience participation, but
well, I mean,
you'll hear it.
Naturally do it anyway.
Yeah.
I know it's coming.
let's see if these folks know what to do when.
Okay. Well, let's see. Maybe I'll start from where should I go?
Oh yeah,
I mean, I'll do from this one.
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh wait, I can't do that. I have to do from the beginning, right?
Mambo! Right? All right. Yeah. Mambo. Hang on. Will you? So I feel like this is one of those moments where the speaker says, "How's everybody doing today?"
Yeah.
No. How's everybody doing today? Right? Why do you give them like da 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 da?
Mambo!
All right. Let's hear a good University Village mambo. All right. Ready? Here we go. Mambo! All right, there you go.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
That's great.
Yeah, this will be really fun. This will be fun. What do you think? Should we encourage the audience to do it?
Yes.
All right. Well, all right. I hadn't thought of that before, but we're at that point now where I think so many people know what that is. So tell us about this magnificent instrument.
This instrument was made in Mantova in about 1760 by a maker named Tommaso Balestrieri. We are friends. I have had it, I would say, since 2014. Yes, that's when I started playing on this instrument. And what's really interesting is that for the first 10 or so years of our partnership, I could not think of a name. And then about a year ago, it just kind of popped into my head. I was like, Lady
George.
Danger. Yes.
Mambo.
I mean, so we are. I love it. We are happy.
So it is Lenny Danger?
Lady Danger.
Lady Danger?
It would be cool if it were Lady Danger,
Yeah.
but no. Lady Danger, yes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes.
So in 2014,
Yeah.
what was the circumstance that allowed you to start this relationship?
I was, what happened? I was at a crossroads with the previous instrument that I really loved, but I had always known was a temporary situation. I knew that I would have to return it at some point, and that time had come. And I was looking for something else to be able to play on, and I was in the UK. And I was staying with friends of mine who, on the last day that I was with them, I was there playing a Bach cycle, actually, all the 6 Bach sonatas and partitas at a church in Hampstead. And after the concerts were over and I was leaving the next morning, on the morning that I was leaving, actually, at like 11 a.m., at about 9:30 or something, my friend who I was staying with said, "Come into the kitchen, we have something to talk to you about." And I was like, oh my God, I broke the house. I mean, it was like, I felt like I was being summoned for something terrible. And they sat me down at the kitchen table and they said, we have a collection of instruments. We had decided we were not going to get any more, but we heard you play and we decided that we would get you a violin. So we would like you to go look for one. And I was sitting there just completely stunned, It was an incredible situation. And this is the result. This was the instrument that I found it was about a year later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Should we hear Lady Danger
Yes.
in her full glory?
Yes.
What would you like to play for us?
So, in the spirit of the blues, I would like to play a piece titled Blues Form/S by a composer named Coleridge Taylor Perkinson, American composer, who I had the good fortune to meet. He was born in 1932 and died in 2004. Unbelievable, creative, and very, very perky, and his nickname was Perk for that reason. And his ability to create stylized music is in a way quite unmatched. And so I'd like to play his blues forms, which is 3 movements. Each one is a different version of the blues. The first one's sort of a down-home blues. Second movement is what I would describe as more free-form jazz. And the third movement is by the seat of your pants.
Thank you.
Very much.
Amazing. You know, when you were speaking about your instrument before, I was thinking with that other instrument, were you like, I think I need to take you to coffee. I'm not sure this is going to work out long term. Because it seems like you have the way you describe it is such an incredibly close personal relationship. And as you were playing, there are two thoughts that I had. First of all, we want to talk about the double stop stuff first of all. But does Lady Danger here, you start working on a piece like that and go, oh, wait a minute, where are we going with this? But let's talk, because I think one of the interesting defining characteristics of that piece is that there are two voices playing a lot of the time, so that's called double stops. Talk to us a little about the technique of, I mean, you have to have, obviously you having the bow play two strings at the same time, or maybe even three in some very limited cases, but then you have to have your fingers kind of working in different time and space of it.
Yes, actually that's a good way to do it. Different timings and spacings. And so, I mean, what's interesting is that, you know, that's the cacophony you hear before an orchestra concert, for example, is everyone is tuning, right? And they're tuning, usually string players are tuning by playing two strings together, two open strings together, right? And the act of that is actually very simple. It can get more and more complicated depending upon how much you want to change one string's pitching, right? And that's what fingers are doing. That's what left-hand fingers are doing, right? So if I do this, so this is just the open string. Right, so that I am playing two double stops, right? And I'm changing just one string. If I change two strings, sorry. Right, it can get more and more complicated, and Perkinson obviously decided that complicated was the way to go.
So, just out of curiosity, could we just take a look at even just like one bar? And
Yes.
could we just do like maybe one of the earlier ones that was just a little bit
Yeah, sure.
more melodic? And then could you just play, oh yeah, one bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just play that one bar super slow, just so they can kind of hear how you're moving your fingers, and then we'll speed it back up.
Sure.
All right, and then we go to kind of regular speed, I guess.
Yes.
At what point in a violinist's training do they start doing that?
Hopefully as soon as possible, because actually the act of playing in the left hand, the act of playing, moving fingers independently of each other creates a necessity for fluidity and the ability to expand muscles and tendons in the left hand. So getting used to doing that it's a good idea to start pretty soon.
Wow. Think of any questions you might have. 'Cause
Oh,
I'm
yes.
just gonna, oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Deborah, go for it.
Yes.
First of all, what was that thing you were doing? Is it like a capo on a guitar? What was that thing?
Oh, the mute. I think it was the
Oh, this. I put my mute on. Right, this.
I didn't know there was a thing like
Yes.
A violin
And
mute.
it is doing what its name is, which is muting the sound of the instrument, making it softer and more sort of breathy sounding. Right, right.
My other question is your violin, and I'm not a violinist and I don't have the right words, but it sounds different
Okay.
than other violins. It sounds more mellow. Is that true? Is that
It's
wrong?
how you hear it. If you're,
More
yes.
melodic, more mellow, more pleasing to the ear.
Oh, well, I'll take that to the bank. Thank you very much.
Lady Danger just
Yes.
fluttered with happiness. Well, what were when you had however many instruments that you were comparing? What could you give us a couple of defining characteristics that made you say, "Here's my gal"?
Yeah. So but part of the reason when I picked up this instrument was in a group of maybe 4 instruments. You know, I just played them in a row, and I think maybe this was number 3 or something. The first 2 I really liked, really good quality instruments, and I picked up this one, and I said, oh, this one has the ability to have many different kinds of colors, right? I want a palette, right? I don't just want good, I want malleable. It also, you know, on a good day, it has the sort of spin focus sound that can carry long distances without a lot of stress playing from me. And also, this also going to sound weird. I mean, I have to practice, but the violin also plays in tune, because some instruments, you pick them up and you play on them and you realize someone has been playing on this instrument out of tune for a very long time, so it's used to that, right? Yeah, good noise. Yeah, out of tune violin playing, as you can imagine, is not the most fun thing to listen to. So all of those things together, made me feel like this is something, this instrument and I will grow together, even though, it is 300 and however long years older than me, and will also, I'm its caretaker for just a short period of time. It will have a life long after me as well.
But it will be in tune.
But it will be in tune, yes.
So, and did you have to do something deliberate to recalibrate it in that way, or you just insist that that's how it has to be?
I just insist. I mean, it has had a couple of different bridges, new bridges made. That's what this wooden piece is right here. There's also a sound post inside, which is directly under this bridge's leg, a little post that has been replaced. But that's normal. Those parts of instruments get replaced, regularly. But also, I've experimented with using different kinds of strings on it and that sort of thing, to find what works, what doesn't work. And we've gotten to a happy medium. I would say, actually, after about 4 years of playing on it, it's like it woke up. It sounded good before that, but then suddenly it was like, I'm here, and I was like, what happened to, But it was great.
And what part of that characteristic do you give to the bow?
The bow is, even though we tend to think of the instrument as being the star of the show, it's actually the bows, really, because this side, the right side, the bow side, is the sound. It is what draws the sound from the instrument. And some bows work better with this instrument than others do. And it took me a little while to find this bow, which I love very much. It manipulates in a way that I find to be easy, but also it has a natural resonance that it pulls out of the instrument, which I appreciate quite a lot.
And did you have a similar thing where you had a half a dozen bows? Did you get that bow after you got that instrument?
I did, yes.
Right, so you really found a bow that was
right.
perfectly suited to that particular instrument.
Right, that works with the instrument, but also has to work with me, right? It's this two-way street, right? So yeah, one after the other.
And then, if you don't mind me asking, so what are the characteristics that you look for in the bow? Is it a weighting issue? Is it a...
It's the weight, and that would be, the weight that can work for my physiognomy. But also the way, like if I were to just do this, like that, like if I just do that, how easy is it for me to, even without trying to make any sound, do I feel the connection between the bow's hair and the string? How direct does that feel? Thank you. And in this case, it felt very immediate, which is nice. Sometimes it can, with certain bows, it can feel like, it might be a nice bow, but if you put it on the string and then try to draw, it takes maybe an inch of bow before you feel like the sound is coming. But with this bow, it's happening right away.
So for a 300-year-old instrument, what is the care and feeding? Obviously, you said there's sound post replacement and the bridge that happens, but obviously...
It has a litter robot. Don't ask what that is. I mean, I just try, to keep it clean and, don't put it in the sun and, make sure that it gets dust bunnies. Another good noise. And what I mean by that is that, if I'm not careful and I haven't actually looked inside it for a year, I'll take it to the shop and they're like, there's a dust bunny in here. And it'll be like a little, centimeter round ball of just fluff that has developed over time. which is, doesn't hurt it at all and makes no noise whatsoever.
But when the little baby birds fly out of there,
Right,
that's quite
that's
another issue,
right, exactly. So
You should have noticed the hay coming out of it, right? Exactly.
Right.
How does the violin react? So you came here last night, you came from New Haven, much cooler in New Haven,
Yes.
probably drier potentially.
Much drier.
So
Much
what
drier.
does the instrument do when you open it up in the morning in a new place, when it's been sitting there for 12 hours only?
Well, when I started playing on it this morning, I mean, of course I probably, subconsciously as a human being had recognized that it's pretty humid here today. But it hadn't even occurred to me until I put the bow on the string, and I thought, it's so humid today. Because, the depth of the string, the depth of the hair, the stick of the bow actually is much more sort of malleable and in warmer, wetter weather. And the sound, the wood of the instrument is expanding or contracting based, on temperature. But one of the other things that I really appreciate about this instrument is even with all of that expanding and contracting, I'm still pretty sure of the sound I think is going to come out of the instrument. It doesn't change enough that if I find it disruptive.
What else would you allow us to hear of Lady Danger?
Well, also in the spirit of America 250, a contemporary of ours, a composer / violinist named Curtis Stewart wrote 24 American caprices for solo violin. And I just recently recorded his Caprice number 2. It has a title, but I'm not going to tell it to you just in case you recognize what the theme of this Caprice came from. I'll ask you at the end. Thank you.
Awesome, that's fantastic.
Any guesses as to where the melody came from? It's Dolly Parton's 9 to 5.
Oh my gosh, wow, that is so very funny. Wow, I love that. I was thinking as you were playing, I was like, is it Lady Danger, or is it Lady Joker, right? Because she's a bit of a, that instrument can really take all the, I think we have basically, you have shown virtually every violin's toolbox, technically speaking. Pizzicato, double stops, all the harmonics, I mean, everything that happens. And it made me really wonder whether you just are an absolute fan of this double stop, playing two voices at the same time, because it really seems to be your...
When I do it, I'm happy.
Okay, that's fair enough. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, please.
Yes.
Yes, you gave me a question, Ty.
Yes.
I'm left-handed, and it
Yes.
seems like everything is made to be better for right-handed people. But in the violin, as you demonstrated, so much goes on with the fingering in the left hand, and relatively little goes on with the bow.
Yes.
Do you think that's kind of a left-handed instrument, or?
Did everybody hear the question?
No.
So the question is the violin, because of all the facility that's required to change notes in the left hand, would that make it effectively be a left-handed instrument in a certain sense?
That's an excellent question.
Is that right, basically?
Yeah, my dominant hand is my right hand. I am right-handed, but I guess in some certain ways, probably my right brain is relatively overdeveloped because of my left side has to do a lot of the time. I mean, I have many left-handed students who, one of them the other day, she told me she's left-handed, but she would throw a ball with her right hand. So, each their own. That's a really good question. That's a question a scientist needs to answer that question. Yeah.
Yes, please.
I'd like to know how you got started at such a young age. Were your parents musical?
My
Your
mother,
parents
who
musical?
was my my parents musical. My mother, who raised all of us by herself, single mom. She is absolutely tone deaf. So no, but she's an educator. So when I showed an interest, she was able to find me very good teachers immediately. But it was. I think I just, I've had a musical ear. I love dancing. It's just sort of this sort of creative streak that I've always had. And I had my family and my mother had the wherewithal and the smarts to support it. In a way that was developmentally helpful. You're welcome.
Yes, please.
Thank you for coming to us today and bringing your lady friend. And I'm just wondering,
Yes.
you practice every day probably.
Yes.
How many hours?
How many hours do you
A
practice?
bazillion.
Endless hours.
Endless hours. I mean, it of course, it depends on the day. I mean, if I am preparing for something, if I'm preparing a new piece that I have all day, I can go for 6 hours. If I don't have the time, it's 2 hours. If I have enough time, it's 4 hours. But what goes along with all that time is the ability to focus for such a long time. If I have 15 minutes, I can get something finished in 15 minutes, make something change in 15 minutes. So it's being able to set your mind to it and stick there and stay there, yeah.
I think one of the big evolutions that younger musicians make is how to be more efficient in your practicing.
Absolutely.
And to get from the scattered over 6-8 hours down to that 4-hour, 2-hour, oh my goodness, half hour, whatever that is, right?
Right, no mindless repetition.
Is that something you teach your students, or part of your teaching at Yale?
Yeah, we talk about it. We discuss what is it that's going to help you in this moment. What is it that you are doing that you are baking into something that you need to not bake into it. So the focus is a big deal, yeah.
Yeah, it's like pickleball, right? So don't do it that way, right? Yeah, please.
So I was a violinist by profession.
Yes.
And I grew up with Golombian and everybody.
Yes.
It was a no pain, no gain. And I practiced those many hours.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, I've damaged my hand at playing.
Yeah.
As a violinist,
Now a teacher also myself, I absolutely don't believe in no pain, no gain thing. It doesn't, you have to be able to push yourself, yes. I mean, that's a part of getting good at something, right? But this pushing through pain and being injured that actually in the long term is not helpful, right? And it is not beneficial, and it doesn't change anybody's life for the better. So it is I find it much more important to find out how to play for long periods of time, not injured, how to be preventative about it.
Do you teach your students how to pace themselves?
Oh, yeah.
Just stretch, yoga, whatever.
Oh yes, we talk about stretching all the time. And they look at me like, why, no. And I'm like, yes, you will start stretching now, when you are 22. You will not wait till you are 40 to do it, right?
So we have, one last question.
One last question, you've been holding up your arm for a while.
Go ahead.
What concerto did you win the concerto competition where Michael was?
Oh.
Pick that one.
Oh, well, I didn't pick it, the school did, right? It was, everybody had to play, it was Prokofiev G minor, the number 2, right? And everyone had, we all competed playing the same piece.
Really?
Right, exactly. That was that year's
no pain, no
piece
gain
for the
in a
violin.
different way. That's not very nice, is it?
Oh, it was fine. We all did fine.
Right, exactly. Well, Tai Murray, thank you so very much for this incredible presentation today.
Thank you for being here. Please join us at the concert.
I want to thank all of you here in person at University Village in Thousand Oaks, and also I know a whole bunch of people are online watching. I know a few people I met in the last few days who watch at work, so it's great to.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. We do have our performances this weekend: Saturday at 7 p.m. in Thousand Oaks, Sunday 3 p.m. in Camarillo. This is our last Masterworks concert for a few months. We'll be back in October, the beginning of October, for Beethoven's First Symphony. The Los Robles Children's Choir will be singing several of Aaron Copland's Old American songs, and the Pacific Festival Ballet will be in partnership with us for a new choreography of Copland's Appalachian Spring. So it's going to be another beautiful Americana. Beethoven's First Symphony, written in about 1800. America had just been getting into the first decade of its new constitution, which was decidedly better than the Articles of Confederation, but still we still had a lot of Bill of Rights to still go through. So a lot of America. We are also going to continue our celebration of America 250 the final Saturday of June at the Reagan Presidential Library, a partnership between New West Symphony and the Reagan Presidential Library. Will be playing music featured in Ronald Reagan's films, which will be really fun. And will be what I'm calling the portrait, Ronald Reagan's portrait. But it's also a wonderful time to hear your orchestra playing in the Air Force One Pavilion on one of the brightest days of summer, Saturday the 27th, I think it is. So just past the solstice. And so that bright blue sky and the high sun will be a great way to come and celebrate this such an important moment in American history. So I can't wait for you to hear Tai play these amazing works with the orchestra. Welcome to our community. Welcome, Lady Danger. I hope you like the humidity and you'll do fine. I'm sure she'll do great. Thank you all. I hope you have a wonderful summer. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, don't forget about New West Symphony. As we carry through the summer, we're always appreciative, grateful for your sponsorship, your donations and support, and look out for the announcement of our next season's activities, which will be announced very soon. And I think I'll just say that it is the umbrella theme is Beethoven's influence over music in the 200 years since he passed away in 1827. It will be 200 years, and 200 years worth of composers and music have lived under the influence of his genius. And we're going to explore Chopin, we're going to explore composers from all over Central Europe, Rossini, many, many other great composers, best of Tchaikovsky. We're going to have a great old time continuing at New West Symphony. So thank you very much, Holly. Thank you very much, and to all of our friends here at University Village.